Hello knitters, Cindy Dell. Just a quick reminder to like my videos if you like the content, and also subscribe to my videos, to my channel, and you'll get updates and new tutorials. I'm doing that a lot. Okay. This is going to be a video on dividing for the sleeves. And we're working on a specific pattern in class, but this applies to any knit in the round top down yoke sweater where you divide for the sleeves and you put the sleeves on hold and then you pick up the sleeves later. Today we're just going to go over how to divide the body and the sleeves. So on my little test swatch here, I've got 152 stitches on here. This is not specific to the pattern, it's just what I ended up with. When you're reading the pattern for the Yuma sweater on page 4, she tells you how to divide the sleeves or separate the sleeves and the body. So for your size, you're going to pick out the number of stitches and you're going to mark it. Like for me, my size is 1, 2, 3, 4 in. So for my size, that's what I'm gonna do. She says to remove the beginning of the round marker. So we're gonna do that and take that out. You can tell where your beginning of round was because this is the tail. So if you ever need to go back, you'll know. That's kind of where you started. Then she says to knit, in my case, 54 stitches, and then you place however many sleeve stitches onto a holder or waist yarn, and then you cast on extra stitches for the new sleeve. And then you knit more stitches around, and then you put more stitches on hold and cast on more stitches until you get all the way around the body. So there's a lot of counting in there, and so what I recommend is that you count your stitches first before you knit and place a marker. And that's where these nice little markers come in handy, these little removable markers. So you can just put those on as you're going. So before you even knit, in this case, in my little swatch, I've said I'm going to knit 54 stitches. So this marks 54 stitches. Then I put 20 stitches on hold for the sleeve. So I've counted out 20. The back and the front have the exact same stitches. So I'm going to be knitting again 54 stitches. And that's to here. And then I finally have 20 stitches here for the sleeve. So let's do that. From here, I'm going to knit 56 stitches. So I'm just knitting as I normally would. I should have mentioned that in order to, do this, you want to have your tools handy. That includes your markers, any markers, scissors, anything that you might need. A tapestry needle and some waist yarn, and I've got 2 strands of waist yarn here for the sleeves. Okay. So I'm knitting around. I don't have to worry, I don't have to count because I've already marked how many stitches I'm supposed to go. Now, This is going to look a little funny because this number of sleeves that I'm putting on hold is really much less than I would if I were really knitting a sweater. So for instance, for Elizabeth Kramer's Yuma pattern, I would knit 54 stitches and put actually 64 stitches on the sleeves, for the sleeves, on a waste yarn. So I'm just doing this for demonstration purposes on how to do it. Don't follow this pattern. It won't get you even a cute doll sweater. It'll just look silly, but this is just a demonstration piece. Okay, so I'm knitting along, going, I'm getting kind of close to the marker, so I know I just need to knit to that marker. This is Cascade 220 yarn. It's a worsted weight yarn and it's 100% wool, non-superwash. So I mentioned this in another video. It's very sticky. If you drop a stitch or something like that, it's so easy to put back because it sticks to itself. So I'll just put that back and then continue knitting. So I like working with wool. Some of you are working with some summer fabrics such as a linen cotton blend, or I've had a cotton alpaca blend, which is absolutely gorgeous. It's a little bit warmer. Alpaca is actually 4 times warmer than wool, and that's because it's hollow in the center. Wool is not hollow, but it has a lot of fibers that stick out all over the place, and it sticks to itself and it traps the air inside, and that's what insulates you, is that trapped air. Alpaca is warmer, which I think is fascinating. Okay. I'm a science person. I like science, so I like that kind of thing. Okay, here I am. I can take out this marker. I'm not going to need it anymore. What I recommend for your sleeves, to hold your sleeves, is something non-wool or I recommend a plant fiber of some sort. This is 100% cotton. And it's in a contrasting color, so it will, you'll be able to see it. The reason I recommend a plant fiber, if you can get it, or even an acrylic, but I don't like acrylic much, but is you don't want the fibers to stick. So remember I said this is 100% yarn of wool and it sticks to itself. You don't want another wool to move in here because it will stick to these fibers and it will stay in there. So you'll have like bright red fibers in your white sweater, and you don't want that. So in order to put my sleeves on hold, I'm just going to slip them tip to tip right through onto my needle. I don't have to count because I've already counted. See, I'm almost to the point where I can stop. So I'm just putting my stitches here. You don't want to go in through the back because that's gonna twist the stitch. You want to go into the front of the stitch, right through that little tube that it makes. And then when you go to pick up your knitting again on your sleeves, they'll be mounted correctly. So here I am at 20. I can take this marker off. I'm going to pull my yarn through, but I'm going to be careful. I don't want to pull it all the way through because then I'll have those live stitches. Just pull it off. This is a little bit long for this, but you're going to want it pretty long because you're going to be picking up more than 20 stitches. And then if you have like this waste yarn on here, you can actually try on your sweater without losing your stitches. You can also put this on a cable, like the cable that's on our, if you have like interchangeable needles, you can use a cable with a stopper to do that. I've done that too. I really like the waste yarn because you can It's really flexible. You can get it out of your way. Your cable's not in your way. So I like using Western. Okay, now the directions say to use a backwards loop cast on to create the armhole. So if you just connected here, this would be too small of a sleeve and too tight of an underarm. This goes right in your underarm area. So she says to cast on a certain number of stitches for your size. So I'm going to cast on 5 stitches, and I'm going to show you how to use the backwards loop cast on. So the movement of that is just the same as what you might use for a long tail cast on, but you've only got one thread, right? So you put it over the top of your thumb, insert your needle through the loop that's on the outside of your thumb from the bottom up through the top, and pull it. And do it again. I'll do it really slow. Put your thumb through and create a loop, go underneath. So you've got this V crosses, go up through, pull it off, and pull it tight. Don't pull it too tight. I think I said I was going to do 5. I've got 4. Here's your last stitch right there. I've got 4. I'm going to do 1 more. Now the designer says to put a stitch marker here. So I'm going to put a little tiny stitch marker, and what this indicates is the middle of the inside of the sleeve. So we put 5 here, we're going to put 5 more for a total of 10 stitches. So it just depends on your size. She has anywhere from 4 to 10 stitches, and then another 4 to 10 stitches. So you have the same amount of stitches on both sides of the marker. So let's go ahead and do 5 more. 1, 2, 3. Don't pull these too tight. Whoops. Here's 4. And 5. It makes a nice simple little knot. These are stitches then that you're going to be picking up for the sleeves, and that's a separate video. But you can kind of see what it looks like. It's just a very simple little chain. So not even a chain, it's just kind of a ropey look. Okay, now we're ready to start knitting our sweater. We're going to be on the body now. This is this part here that we've knit is the front. Put the sleeves on hold. Now we're going to be knitting the back. All you do is you just start knitting. Go into the next stitch. What you want to do, whoops, I'm going to put my yarn in the right place so that it's not twisted. I'm going to put my needle in. I'm just going to do a little tug, not too much, or you won't get it through when you go to cast or pick up the stitches, and just start knitting. Don't leave too much of a gap. If you do it like this too much, you're going to have a big gap. So the hint to that is to put your needles pretty close together like this. Don't have them spread out. Keep them close and knit over. You can, instead of pulling it off, you can actually slide it off and then just keep going. Now we're knitting. We're knitting on the back. So we don't have to count. We're going to go all the way to this marker, and these will be the sleeves. can see how teeny tiny those sleeves are. It's obvious that she's got more stitches on the sleeves on hold than she does for the top, or the front I should say. So this is just an example. It's not anything that was very realistic, but I'll show you how to do it. The reason I have so many stitches is when I go to knit this around and around and around again, I'm going to have 40 fewer stitches on my, well, not 40, close to 30, probably 30 fewer stitches on my needle, and I want them to be able to fit around my circular needle. So you're going to be, you know, removing more than half of your stitches and putting on a few cast on, but not really that many. And so I had a little trouble with just a really small sample, so I doubled it up. So I've got twice as many stitches as I would have. Okay. Almost to the sleeves. I don't have to count. I just knit. The pre-counting, you know, they never tell you these little hinty things in the patterns because they want to keep the pattern streamlined. But these little hints and little ideas are very helpful. And they just they can help you speed up your knitting, and it can be less frustrating because you're not counting. It's just like putting in your markers in between your lace panel, your lace repeats. It helps you know where you are. Here I am. Now, if I would have followed my own advice, I would have left the marker in so that I would know where to end. So before I start knitting, I'm actually going to count and put another marker in. 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 12, 14, 16, 18, 20. That's going to be where my sleeve ends. Okay, so I've got my waste yarn and my needle. I put this through. And then again, I'm going to just slip I've done 10, which is half the sleeves. She wants you to put a marker in because she has a special faux seam going down the inside of the sleeve and the inside of the sweater. So oh wait, no, this doesn't go here. It goes on the, I'm sorry. We'll just keep going. Go all the way to the end. Okay. And there we are. Taking this yarn and tying it. Okay, there we've got our sleeve, and now we're going to do the cast on for the underarm. This is where you actually put the marker. One, two, three, So there we've got the underarm. We're going to knit on these stitches, and this will become the body underneath the arm. It won't be the sleeve, it'll be the underarm down. Then we just start knitting again. We're at the very beginning of where we were, and the rest of this is just stockinette. Pretty much all stockinette until you get to the markers, and what she says is you're going to do a faux seam. So this stitch right here is going to be purled all the way down. So you want to keep your markers in here. You're going to have a faux seam on both sides. That's why she wants you to have a marker in there. So that's it. That's how you divide a sweater for the sleeves. So working on the front, here's your little sleeves. It looks very silly, but that's the way it works. Hope that's helpful.